Yet another player enters the transfer portal for West Virginia. What's that mean for the Mountaineers? What's that mean for us here at Locked On West Virginia? We're going to talk about it as West Virginia's total rises to 28. Should we be worried?
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia. Appreciate you guys for joining in with us as we dive into another episode of Locked On West Virginia, talking Mountaineer football, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Rouette. With Rouette, guys, if you didn't know, now you know. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to Rouette.com/LockedOnCollege. That way you can get 50% off your order for a limited time. With Rouette ready, you can feel present, confident, and ready. And thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Donovan Haslam enters the transfer portal. Interesting to say the least. I don't think it's one I saw coming just because you would think that he would get a lot better in year two. But I'm not surprised. I'll tell you why. The longer and further this goes on, the more I wonder if, like, not even Mike and Chris from Ear Sports today, they did a podcast earlier today. On that podcast, they, as of today, weren't sure if Jack McNeil was going to stay or go. It's not certain right now whether or not Coach Trickett's going to come in and be the O-line coach. I mean, it's still probably going to be this way, but there could be some resentment from guys that didn't get to play as much last year as they should have got to play, like Haslam. You know, Haslam's a great example, man. A guy that probably should have played a lot more last year. Why would he want to play if McNeil's going to stay on staff? I have no idea if that's going to be the case, but I'm just saying keep your eye on that. If McNeil sticks around, I was told early on a bunch of guys are going to enter the portal. Bunch. So, I'm not a big believer in firing coaches to save players. It just never works. In this case, I would make an exception. Just because I think he's lost the fan base, Jack McNeil, as well as some of the players. And, whether that's fair to him or not, I'm not here to say. It's definitely not all on him, but there's, some of those decisions that were on him are glaring, and a lot of us remember them and aren't going to forget, So that's probably a part of this. The individual loss, it sucks. It's a guy that could have been a starter. I think he realizes he's in a situation. Just think about this for a second. Think about this just for a second. If you're Donovan Haslam, you're a pretty good player, maybe even good enough to start next year, right? Let's say Coach McNeil or Coach Rouette or even Rich Trickett or whoever has a conversation with you and says, hey, look, we're going to probably spend $3 million in the portal. I'm just throwing a number out. I have no idea. We're probably going to spend $3 million in the portal on the offensive line. We got to get better there, and you're going to have to compete for your job. Is that something you're going to want to do? Maybe this was your way of answering that question if you're Donovan Haslam. Remember, guys, West Virginia had an all-time bad year last year on the O-line. Priority number one of the offseason is not letting that happen again. Some guys don't want the competition. I'm not saying that's Haslam here, but I think that that's something that a lot of people aren't considering when you lose a player. Now, in this day and age, individual players matter less. The volume, like somebody said in the chat, does matter. But the O-line was like Jared says in the chat, the O-line needs a complete overhaul anyways. So Is that official, Chevy Diesel? Is that something that's being reported right now? Let me check live here because that would be big news. Unless you're just making some kind of statement. I'll have to wait and see here. I'm not seeing anything on it yet, but is there some kind of reporting to that, or are you just screaming it? Somebody find out for me. Has Jack Bicknell been named out? Because my understanding, he still had some time left on his contract, but yeah. Anyways, I'm not seeing it anywhere, at least in my quick gaze around here. So somebody let me know in the chat if you get time. I'm not seeing it. So I'm not saying you're wrong. For those of you that are wondering, I'm looking in the chat here. Somebody is claiming that Jack Bicknell's been officially out, and I'm not seeing it anywhere. So if somebody can find that, send me the link in the chat, and I will click on it and we'll read it. But until then, that's great news. I think it's expected. And that takes away one possibility for why Haslam would leave, in my opinion, which is probably Bicknell. Or it could be the opposite. Maybe he liked Bicknell. You just never know. But I think overall it's a loss, but not a huge loss. He's a very replaceable player. You don't want to have to try to teach the entire O-line over again. I think we all realize that Livingston and Cray are the two that we have to keep. Haslam was third behind those two. There are other guys in that room as well that are going to get better after a year that we don't even talk about. So I get it. There's a lot to unpack with all this. But, let's not forget, Haslam only played 4 or 5 starts last year. It's not like this is a guy that started for 2 years on your O-line or like a Zach Frazier or it's not a devastating loss. I think a lot of people are overreacting to it, and it's it's a loss. Don't get it twisted for me, in my opinion, but it's definitely not a major loss category like Cam Vaughn was to me. Attitude notwithstanding, I get his attitude had gotten worse or seemed to be getting worse, or maybe he was frustrated. So I totally understand that too, but I have to trying to see both sides of all this when I'm thinking about it, so it's what we're doing with Haslam here. We're trying to think of all the different angles that can come into play. There's a lot of speculation involved, right? At the end of the day, he's in the portal. Now, maybe he's trying to get more money. Maybe West Virginia will try to pay him more. The portal is also used as a leverage tool for some players. So, maybe he's a guy that can come back into the fold. You never know. But I do think that if I had to guess, and I Donovan and I have texted before, we follow each other. I tried to figure out what the dealio was. Think of it like this, guys. You've got, let me pull this up really quick. 2025. Okay, so if we pull up the recruiting class this year for West Virginia, what? That's crazy. That totally caught me off guard. It was commits in West Virginia somehow. I don't understand how that happened, but all right, so 2026. I was on the wrong year too. That probably didn't help any. So not only do you have Kevin Brown coming in, obviously that's the obvious one, but you've also got Deshaun Woods coming in, who's rated close to 4 stars. And coming in from Omaha Central, which is a junior college. And a lot of people think he's got a chance to start right away as well. Jonas Muya is another one, right, from Bishop Lowers. So, those 3 guys specifically, along with others, is not just them, are coming. And then you factor in who may be getting better from last year that's on the actual roster. And then you factor in that West Virginia is going to go and spend 3 or 4, I don't know how much, let's say 2 or 3 million on the O line. I don't know. And that's my best guess as to why he would leave. Maybe he didn't want the competition, maybe he wants to go down a level to G5. Maybe he has an offer from the Power Four that we don't know about. Here's another thing to consider before we get out of here on this topic. Coach Trickett is very specific about the type of player he wants. You have to be in shape. You have to be a certain size. You have to be a certain level of athleticism. I'm about to do a huge Rick Trickett show here in about an hour. I've spent a long time today on Rick Trickett, and I'm talking about I've messaged former coaches. I've messaged former people he's mentored, and I've gotten a hold of them. I've got a lot of Rick Trickett info, and I mean a lot, his entire life just about. And I've got some really cool clips and things and messages I got from him, Coach Trickett, that I'm going to put in there. So you don't want to miss it for sure. But that said, he is not the kind of dude that's going to allow not overweight, but the plus side of O-line would look like 330, 340, which is where Haslam was starting to get. I don't know. Maybe that's another thing, right? So I am just going to say this last part. Rick is going to bring a whole new mentality to the O-line room. And it's either get with it or get gone. And a lot of guys are probably going to have to get gone because it's a tough thing to play for. He wants people to know from just the stance they get out in that who they play for. So it's very meticulous and detail oriented. Like I said, we're going to do a full video on that here in just about an hour. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, do numbers lie? 28 portal losses for West Virginia squarely puts them in the top 5 losses in the country. We got to talk about that next. But before we talk about our friends with Rouette, and right now with Rouette, guys, if you didn't know that, Rouette's got a pretty cool promotion going on right now. Let's talk about it because most men don't bring this thing up, right? Stress from work, money in life, it just doesn't switch off at nighttime. And when it shows up the worst possible time for men, Rouette Ready is there and is designed for you to help take your control back. Rouette Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rouette Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients into 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue, so it absorbs fast. Science behind Rouette stands out. Why? Because there's 3 clinically proven ingredients that one formula is designed for both mental and physical readiness. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch to Rouette. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head over to Rouette.com/LockedOnCollege. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege, where you can too be Rouette Ready to get 15% off your first order for a limited time. That's Rouette Ready. Feel present, feel confident, and feel ready. And segment 2, crack-a-doo. I've got a little bit of a headache going here. Probably might be from caffeine. That's the first drink I've had of that today. Old caffeine headache. All right, so West Virginia is in a spot here where they have now, I think they're now is at 28 losses on the year through the transfer portal. I don't know. You've had O-line room, you've had running back, you've had defensive back, you've had wide receiver, multiple contributors gone, so I get it. You look at the top teams, Oklahoma State lost 43. That's just an insane number. Iowa State lost 33. Florida State's lost 25. Auburn has lost 23. West Virginia's lost 28 now. When I did this, it was at 22, I think, or 23. And West Virginia's not alone, right? So we get it. I see it. I understand. Like, there's a lot of loss here, and you look over the list of guys, and I don't want to be rude. I really don't. But the departures are, I mean, they're not world beaters, I guess you could say. Right? I mean, is that a nice way to put it? Perhaps. I mean, if you look at some of the names on it, let me get back up to it. So, you got Mike Hasty, Tyshawn Dews, Jude Edwards, Ethan Chill, Zay Jennings, Jaheim White, Dior Hubbard. So where's my pen? I don't have my pen near me. I was going to mark names down that I felt were important, but I'll just try to mentally check them. Well, I'll just type them in this box right here. So you've got Jaheim White, right? You've got Dior Hubbard. You've got, Robbie Martin's a loss, but how big of a loss we'll never know. I'll put it in because he's a 4-star player. Khalil Wilkins, Jason Cross. Let's see. Cannon Katzer, no. As much as I wanted him to be better, he wasn't. Jackson Beiser, no. Dwayne Galloway, maybe. Aiden Steyer, no. You got Xavier Bosley. Somebody, at least my personal opinion on him. Israel Boyce. Cam Vaughn. Donovan Haslam. So, in my personal opinion, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that you really didn't want to lose, right? That's a decent number, but it's not anywhere bad as 28. The other 20, we didn't want here for the most part anyway, right? There were a couple of those guys I'd have liked to cap, Boyce, and there are a couple guys you could go either way with, but for the most part, a lot of this fat was going to get trimmed anyway. And then you lost 8 guys that would be deemed as blows. Well, that's happening to everybody. We just happen to think about this. Last year, we didn't get the portal window in the first time when it was open in December, and we didn't get the regular high school recruiting, and we had to recruit towards February. So that means that you picked up a lot of players that you were just not going to keep, which is why we had 30 seniors on that team last year, guys. So, if anybody deserves a year 0, Rich Rodriguez actually does deserve a year 0 because he didn't even get to recruit or get a portal class in for his first year. That was worth the crap. Those guys were all junior college and Division II and some Group of 5 and Division Power 4 players. But you look at the Power 4 players he brought in or the Division Group of 5 players he brought in, here's how they were having to do things. Keenan Wakaniole was playing defensive line at LSU, but on paper it looks like you got an LSU defensive or offensive lineman. Jamori Robinson was the defensive player of the year in the American Conference last year, but he had to be suspended for 3 games. So, these are the kind of players they had to take. And, is anybody surprised that not only was the team not as good as we hoped it would be, but that they're still kind of feeling the effects of it all? So I think numbers lie here. Yeah, 28, not a great number, but I think it's way overblown. I think you've lost 8 to 10 guys that you really didn't want to lose. And that's everybody else in the country. That's in line with everybody else in the country. The other guys were guys that you would have never took in the first place had you not have been desperate. Or they're just guys that didn't work out. So, and that's going to happen with everybody. I think this is overblown in my personal opinion. And I think West Virginia going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Now, are we going to have, you know, I liked what I heard on the podcast from Mike and Chris today. You know, Mike said, you've got to be good. Not only do you have to have really good 22 starters, but you have to be good from 22 to 44, 45. I 1000% agree with that. If you can't look at your top 50 players and think, oh, yeah, he's pretty good. Oh, yeah, he's pretty good. Oh, he's really good. Then you're in trouble, right? You have to at least be good from that top 50 on down, and then start getting into the guys that you can stand to lose. If your top 50 guys aren't all guys that, you know, you really would rather keep or can contribute, you're not going to be good enough to win a conference championship. That's for sure. So is West Virginia all of a sudden going to have that many? I think we're struggling now, because if you look at what's left on the roster, and we don't know who's going to step up in that freshman class. Let's keep that real. Like, there's probably, just by sheer volume of numbers, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 really good freshmen this year, like really good, and probably some JUCO guys as well. So that should supplement some of the drop. But like, if you look at the West Virginia roster right now, let me go over the roster now that this has happened. We'll do it in real time. So who can you not stand to lose at this point? Jamori Robinson's gone. Eddie Kelly Jr. is gone. Jaheim White's gone. Ty Edwards is gone. Coach Jr. gone. Let me do this be easier if I do it by position. All right, so Bandits, obviously Robinson, Siders is gone. You got to keep Curtis Jones Jr. That's got to be one. You need to keep Marshawn Oxley. Keenan X in the portal. Michael Coates is gone. Jordan Scruggs was forced out. Keyshawn Robinson gone. Jason Chambers gone. Carmeris Bomar, one of your freshmen, you probably want to keep, right? Somebody's got some talent. Dwayne Galloway's in the portal. Ty Crutcher. I haven't really got to anybody that I felt like we absolutely had to keep yet. BJ Hendrickson. Nick Taylor, obviously you want to keep, I think, but you don't want to break the bank for him yet. I don't know. He showed flashes last year. Squires in the portal. Kelly's graduating. Telemac is a freshman. Taylor Brown was a freshman. Corey McIntyre you want to keep. But like, it's not imperative to keep him either, in my opinion. He didn't show up last year like we thought he would, but he got better as the year went on. Devin Grant is going to graduate. Asani Redwood will be back. I think you need to keep him for your defensive line continuity and just keeping that whole thing rolling for next year. Elijah Simmons, I think you need to try to keep. I thought he was going to make a bigger impact last year, but he didn't. Eddie Vesterinen, I would take 10 more of him if we could take him, but we can't, unfortunately. Brandon Caesar was a freshman last year, so you would expect for him to potentially come out and contribute some this year. Hammond Russell's a senior. He's gone. Kate Hensley is gone. RJ Cochan should be back. Specialist-wise, I'm not 100% sure on all of those, but John Lewis, gone. Ben Cutter should be back. Michael Hasty, gone. Chase Wilson, gone. He's senior. Ben Bogle will be back, and that's one of your big ones, in my opinion. Ashton Woods, way up there, one of your top 5 or 8. You want to keep Ashton Woods no matter what. He's one of the future of that linebacking room, in my opinion. I think he could have a big year next year. Reed Carrico's gone. Caden Beiser's gone. Caleb Nuhi-Yandel's gone. Cam Torber, freshman, got to keep him. I think he's good. Although he hasn't proven it yet, I do think he will be good. Got to keep McGuire Moss. Caden Seller, obviously, is, he's a long snapper, but you'd like to keep him. Fred Perry is unfortunately gone. William Davis is gone. Zay Jennings is gone. Chris Filippo, you're going to keep, hopefully. He was only a true freshman, though. So, he had a lot of growing pains last year. I think he got a chance to be much better next year. Raymond Kovalevsky, you'd like to keep for continuity on your line. Nick Cray, got to have him. Can't lose him, obviously. Walter Youngbear, he's gone graduating. Carson Lee gone graduating. Kimo Macanioli gone graduating. Donovan Haslam is a loss. Josh Isosa, you don't want to lose him. Absolutely not. That's one of those ones that could step up big. Jude Edwards is another one you'd like to keep around if you could. Just because, like I say, continuity, you want to keep some of the same offensive line. You don't want to have a brand new offensive line 1 through 15 again. Trevor Bigelow is also a part of that. Unless you just think they suck and can't improve or don't have the right attitude. Those are things I'm not privy to, so we can't make a judgment call. But we're just going on the field for all these. Philip Bowser is in that freshman class. Robbie Martin's in the portal. Cooper Young is another one that is in the portal or not in the portal. Malik Agbo will be back next year. There's another one you got to keep. And Landon Livingston, you got to keep him, right? Then you got Wyatt Minor, who's going to be back as a sophomore. You probably want to keep him just for continuity. Griffin Fogel is another freshman. Brandon Hamady, another freshman. Ethan Chill's in the portal. Andreas Hunter is a freshman. Tykes Crawford has graduated. Xavier Bosley just went in the portal, which I feel like it was a bigger loss than people are talking about. Michael Clay is graduated. Ollie Straw, unfortunately, graduated. Aiden Steyer is he's a freshman. Max Brown should be gone, but he's a junior. I'm assuming he'll be gone at some point. Nico Marchiol is gone. Scott Keene should be gone. Jalen Henderson's gone. Khalil Wilkins is gone. Scotty Fox Jr. is obviously the biggest, if not the second biggest on the list. So you can't lose him. We know that. Max Anderson, gone. It's just the truth of it. It's what's going to happen. You lost Jaheim White. That's a big loss. Like I said, you're probably going to lose Ty Edwards unless a miracle pulls off and he gets an extra year, and he probably won't even stay if he does. He would have been recruited by everybody last year had he had more eligibility. Ty Edwards is another great example of a guy we brought in that we just couldn't get eligible till late. And then he got hurt in the first game he played in. Just our luck, man. Dior Hubbard, big loss, Sincere Bowers is still staying here. Clay Ash is gone. Andre Devine is still here. Tyler Jacklich is gone, I believe. Cannon Katzer should be gone, but I do wish him the very best. Thought he was a great guy. Jordan Walker is a guy that just couldn't produce, man. He didn't. He had 1 pick six, I think, but other than that, he didn't really have a whole lot. Way too undersized. Israel Boyce was another one, man. Sophomore, he would have been great to keep around for the next couple of years. But I understand he wanted to go try to make a name for himself. Justin Harrington, we never saw hide nor hair of, so he'll be gone for sure. If he gets to play again, he'll be like 27 or 28. Derek Carter is going to be gone. Kikora Tarnu is going to be gone. Darren Lewis is going to be gone. Jason Cross is a freshman, so should imagine him to be back. Caleb Gray should be back or gone. I don't know if he's in the portal or not. I can't remember off the top of my head. Julian Horton is another freshman that you'd like to keep around. Colin McBee is a tight end you want to keep around. Greg Barnes is gone. Jacob Barrick is gone. Ryan Ward, you got to do what you got to do. You better keep him in some way, shape, or form. Hopefully. And then you get to the receivers. Obviously, Cam Baum is a huge loss. Can't understate it. Big loss. But he is replaceable as long as you don't lose everybody else. Gerard Bowie, should be pretty good next year. Gerald Williams finally is going to go figure out what he can do somewhere else. He just wasn't Power 5 ready, at least at West Virginia. Justin Smith-Brown is in the portal or gone. Jeff Weimer, unfortunately, didn't get his. I don't know if he was going for a waiver or if they're waiting on it. But I haven't seen anything about that for him. Christian Hamilton has got to keep him. Logan Ramper, I think he's gone. Armoni Weaver, freshman wide receiver, I think you got to try to keep him. He's got some talent, even though he's undersized. Preston Fox is gone. Camden Pittsburgh, I think, should stick around, even though, you can question that if you want to. Cyrus Straw is somebody I think is going to play for West Virginia next year, in my opinion. And then last but not least, Tyshawn Dews and Jordan McCants. So, were there a ton of names on that list that I said that you just got to have? Maybe 10, 20, so right. Well, yeah, Justice Smith Brown, maybe he went to the draft. I couldn't remember which one it was, but for the most part, there's probably 15 guys. I will say 15 that you just got to have. We're going to break real quick. We'll be right back after the break. This is Locked On West Virginia. Stick around. And, of course, we're talking about our friends at FanDuel here. Right now, guys, with FanDuel, usually we say it's $5 and it's going to make you go holla, but not on this one. With FanDuel right now, if you want to be in the middle of the action right now this season, FanDuel's got everything you need to make sure you can do that for sure. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers are going to drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. You can get Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. They have become appointment viewing and NBA Happy Hour for this company, what we call FanDuel. You can open up the FanDuel app during happy hour, always bring somebody new with boosts, bonuses, and surprises. The timing's perfect because right before the games, you can literally check all those boxes if you need to. Right before the weekend starts, you can as well because it adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. Put the tip off. So before tip off, check the FanDuel app and see what's happening during the NBA Happy Hour, which is every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. The NBA Happy Hour is a subset of FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the National Basketball Association. And we back here, Locked On West Virginia in segment 3. Thank you guys so much for all you do. Here's the thing, man. I'm not going to panic yet. I want to make sure I want to see, hopefully they'll start putting out graphics for guys saying that they're coming back, because last year they did that with the energy place. So hopefully they continue to do that and or McAfee or whoever. But yeah, we definitely would like to see some guys start putting their names in the hat saying, hey, I'm going to stay, especially on the O&D line. Quarterback, but I mean, it's going to be an interesting offseason for us because if we keep everybody that we can, that's worth playing. Like I said, I think there's a list of, I know in the offseason, I counted 30 names, and this was like a game before the season ended or something like that. Or it's like the week of Texas Tech. I did a show where I went over the roster like that, and I came up with 30 people that I really felt good about as far as going into this next year with, and that's all you were going to have. Well, now you've lost probably a third of those guys. I think you're down to about 20 now that you just got to have for next year. So if you go out and add 20 guys, 25 guys in the portal, and your freshman class works out and you get 5 or 6 guys from the freshman class that contribute and maybe 2 that are like really good. Like I think Kevin Brown can be a freshman All-American, like something like that. Maybe Amari Latimer can be right there in that conversation. Then you're talking about you're going to have between 40 and 50 really good players next year. If you can do that, you've got a chance to be in the 8-9 win discussion for sure. If you can't get to those numbers where you look at it and say, okay, I've got 40 or 50 guys on this roster that I really love, and then we're kind of working on it outside of that. If you can't at least get there this year, it's going to be another down year. I hate to feel sorry for ourselves, but just until we see who we get, it's going to be impossible to know, right? And some of the names we've heard, I think a lot of people are uninspired by, right? I think that's the word I've heard a couple people use, and I'm not saying I agree with this. But whenever you look at the name of guys, West Virginia is known to be actively recruiting, right? You've got obviously Easton Baker, right? Who is the linebacker at Illinois, is in the transfer portal. He's got 3 years remaining. I think he's a really talented player, but there are people that think that he's not worth the trouble. And we've only got so many slots we can bring people in the portal, whether that's 15 or 20. Do you want to waste it on a guy who's never played in Illinois yet? Like, that's what people say. I'm not saying I say that. I turn on his tape and I see a guy that's like, holy cow, man, he can really play. And his brother is right there with him. They're going together somewhere, and they love West Virginia content. So I'm assuming that West Virginia got a shot there, but we'll see. So, obviously guys like that are a big deal, but overall, if you can figure out another way to get to that 40 or 50 number, I think we got a chance to be okay, but it's going to take a lot. All right, guys, I got to run. I got to do this Rick Cricket video next. Just really like a lot of what I found out today about that whole situation. You guys are going to love it. We'll see you guys here in about, give me 30, 40 minutes, and we'll do this next video. Q Country Roads, we'll be back in a bit. See you then, guys.